All right, everybody, welcome into KBO Chats Live. I'm Sam Pascal along Eric Halterman at our brand new time, 7 o'clock, at least for right now. Talking everything KBO, giving you everything you need for picks, DFS picks, and just if you're just a fan of the league, talking about who's good, who's bad, who's on the rise, who's falling right now, all that and more. Eric, how are you doing on this fine evening?
Doing pretty well. Looking forward to an exciting and important set of weekend series. How about you? Do you want to tell them why we're at a later time today? I hear you were actually outside. What's the world?
Yes, yeah. So I actually, outside of our time with RotoWire here, I do moonlight as a sports director at a radio station here in San Francisco, and I was at Oracle Park, one of 35 media members. I actually get to go into the summer camp training. So that was really cool watching their little spring training scrimmage game where it's not quite inter squad, but it is like an actual scrimmage. They call it modified BP is what they officially call it. So that was great. And actually the MVP of the scrimmage was a former KBOer himself, Darwin Ruff. Spent 3 years with the Samsung Lions, hit 313, 86 home runs. So pretty impressive today, 2 doubles in the scrimmage. So that was fun. But I am looking forward to diving into the rest of this week's KBO action as we have a couple of interesting series, which I am really looking forward to. So without any further ado, let's dive into it. As always, comment your picks. Let us know who you liking, what you're thinking tonight. We'll answer all the questions you have today. So we got our first series here, taking a look at it. I see NC, I see LG. We're seeing some other series that maybe are pretty good. Let's start with the standings. When we look at when we look at who's at top, we see the Dinos, Heroes, and Bears. Is anyone surprising you there? Is that pretty much what you expected after the last time we spoke, with those 3 still staying at the top?
Yeah, not a ton of movement at the top. I think one of the most interesting things about the standings overall, if you scroll to the right a tiny bit, you'll see that no team has a streak of more than 2 wins or losses, which means nobody swept last time out. We had 5 very tight, interesting series. So not big movement at the top or bottom, but the middle of the standings are so tight right now that a lot can change. A lot can change this weekend.
Yeah, and even the Hanwha Eagles, they were able to get a victory in that game 1 series. So we'll see what happens going forward. But like you said, no sweeps. The Whiz, they were the only ones that were in position with the sweep game 1 and 2, but they did end up losing. And then you mentioned the middle of the standings here. How are we feeling about this? Kia Tigers only 28 wins, but yet Samsung actually has 30, but yet they're below them in the standings. How confident are you in someone catching that Kia Tigers for that 5th playoff spot?
I think their hold on it is very fragile, especially given that they have, a 0-game lead over the Lions right now. I think it's very wide open 4 through 7. Twins and Tigers have been better for much of the year, but the Lions and Whiz are charging. They've each had winning records over their last 10, whereas the Twins and Tigers have each won just 4 of the last 10. So it's only getting closer, which is nice. It looked for a while like we might have just 5 clear playoff teams and 5 clear teams that had no real shot, but I'm glad that it looks like it's going at least deep. I see the Giants have the same record as the Whiz, but I've been pretty down on them for a while. I think their run differential and their underlying numbers supports that too. I think it really is just a top 7, but that's a lot better than it looked just a couple weeks ago when it looked like we really just had 5 teams competing for 5 spots.
Yeah, a big jump in parity. We're seeing a lot of that in the KBO action. Some comments are coming in here. First up, I want to talk about Alex, which is perfect as we move into our daily lineups, taking a look at the weather impact, right? At weather issues. I'm seeing a lot of rain, a little cloud here, a great little graphic on rotowire.com. Some clouds. How do we feel about the weather tonight, Eric?
Yeah, earlier in the day when I was looking, it looked like a little bit more of a threat. Everything I've seen lately says that it looks like there's some rain in many parts of the country, but none of the games look like they're hugely threatened. Unfortunately, it's a bit of a gray area where it doesn't seem impossible that we get a rain out, but it doesn't seem likely.
All right, and then our next question here. Some rain here. Just write the letter S. Some rain. And see, we're starting with them right away. Seeing them face off against the LG Twins, who do have 30 wins, but maybe aren't the team we remember them as to begin this year with Roberto Ramos. How's that bullpen looking? Can they maybe complement Drew Rzinski and get the win tonight against the Twins?
Yeah, they definitely need some help. Their bullpen's been, I haven't checked it in the last day or two, but it's been, if not the worst, right there for quite some time. I'm not sure about specific targets, but given how far out the Eagles and Wyverns are, I'd be very surprised if teams like the Dinos weren't calling for their top relievers pretty soon. I believe their trade deadline is still a month-ish away. I think it might be August 15th. If it's not specifically then, it's mid-August. But I would be pretty surprised if the Dinos don't make a move within the next couple weeks.
Interesting. So a little deadline transaction, always fun to get some trade rumors going on. But looking again at this game offensively, I wanted to highlight a couple hitters here. How do we feel about their lineup still? Aaron Altair was my daily fantasy must-start pick in the KBO show earlier. But in previous shows, you've mentioned the Dinos being, 1 through 9, guys that are better than league average. Are they still that good and that threatening to opposing pitchers?
Yeah, I think that stat of all 9 guys being better than league average may not be true anymore. I think last I checked, Myung-Hee Lee had fallen just below league average, but it's still incredibly deep. One of the interesting things about the Dinos is they've moved their lineup around quite a lot throughout the year. Aaron Altair started as the cleanup guy, but it didn't take long for them to drop him all the way down to 8. He was battling a hand injury for the first 10-ish games and was quite bad. And they dropped him down to 8, and they kept him there for a long time. He's moving back up now. And Jin Sung Gong, who was the guy who came out of nowhere and was suddenly one of the best hitters in the league for much of the season, that shot him up to the top few spots, but he's just had a bit of a slump for 10 to 15 games, and he shot all the way down to 8. Hee-Dong Kwon is the new Jin Sung Gong, apparently. We have him listed as 9, but he's spent time as high as 2 recently. So they're one of those teams where, since their lineup's so deep, whoever gets the key spots is somebody you want to look at. So that really is a team you want to look at if you're able to set your lineups last minute, because whoever hits in those top 2 spots is somebody you want to play, because again, they don't have a weak link in that lineup. So whoever gets the prime position hitting in front of the likes of Sungbum Na, Aaron Altair, and Yuji Yang, it's going to be an awesome spot. So whether that's Lee, whether that's Kwon, whether that's Park, it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
And then normally I'd like to talk about the opposing team, but we're talking about the Dinos here, and I feel pretty confident with them getting the victory tonight. Do you feel the same way, that they can dominate this Twins team that, is pretty much a shell of their former self from earlier this year?
Yeah. The Twins, they've struggled for quite a while. They're 5-13 over their last 18 games. That's quite bad. That would be something like 8th over the course of the whole season. And they also haven't beaten good teams. Their record against the top 3 teams, that would be the Dinos, Heroes, and Bears, is 6-14. They haven't won a series against anyone other than the bottom 3 teams since May. So it seems like a lot of their strong record for much of the season was basically based on them beating up on the bad teams, and that certainly doesn't describe the Dinos. So given the recent performance, I'd definitely side with the Dinos pretty much in all 3. The Twins pitcher tonight, Chang-Hyu Lim, isn't bad. He's got strong strikeout to walk numbers. So he does have a chance if he's on his game, but Drew Rudzinski is one of the best starters in the league. So I think you got to favor the Dinos tonight.
I like it. And if you look at what they did against the Bears, losing 2 of 3, that's any sign or any indication of what's to come in this series. A lot of L's for this Twins team recently, and most likely finishing up this week as well. Next, I'm seeing a comment here from longtime friend of the show, Sean, talking about how we finally see a battle for last place, SK Wyverns against the Hanwha Eagles. I was pretty excited when I saw this one on the schedule. Maybe not the best series, and I mean like that Kiwoom, but I mean in terms of standing fun, who's gonna be last place this year, this is definitely a game to watch.
Yeah, if you're into that, I guess it's the series of the season. Yeah, two quite bad teams, just bad at everything pretty much these days. The Wyverns have more talent on the roster, but a lot of it's injured. They've now just lost Jung Choi as well, so they're down to basically one trustworthy hitter in Jamie Romack, but that's one more than the Eagles have. So still got to say they're the better team, but not by a whole lot. Any of these games could really go either way, just because both teams are so bad. The pitchers tonight, Joo-Hyun Kim for the Wyverns has been very bad in very limited actions. No reason to have much faith in him. For the Eagles, Minwoo Kim, he at least strikes people out. Not sure he does a whole lot else, but there's something there. Maybe that gives the edge to the Eagles in this one. It's hard to ever give the edge to the Eagles in anything, but he's mildly interesting. But neither pitcher is great. If they had hitters worth using either team, I would be interested, but not a lot in either lineup. Again, Jamie Romack, that's kind of it. I've kind of liked Yoon-Won Jung, the number 2 hitter, young left-handed hitter for the Eagles. So would be potentially interested in him with a weak righty going on the mound tonight. But not a whole lot in either one. If the Eagles do manage to win this series, though, I think if they take even 2 out of 3, I'll probably bump them up to 9 in my power rankings on Sunday. We'll see if they can do it. It would be a little bit fun to have somebody else in 10 just for once, but we'll see. If the Wyverns have been definitely better than the Eagles for much of the year, so they should win the series, but they have been pretty close to just as bad of late. So.
Yeah, rarely do we get to say that the Eagles starter has a lower ERA than their opposing starter, especially when that's the Wyverns starter outside Ricardo Pinto. Really not much from that pitching staff, and even Pinto's been iffy at best. We're seeing a listener here thinking SK in this game. Do you feel the same way? Because looking at the pitching matchup, I might lean towards the Eagles, especially considering they did win a game in the beginning of this week in Game 1.
Yeah, I think I might lean Eagles too, even though I really don't like saying that. I wouldn't lean them by a lot, but when you get 2 bad lineups and one slightly better pitcher, I think I lean Eagles here. The Wyverns do have one good pitcher. Sung-Won Moon has actually been pretty good all year long. Good ERA, good strikeout, good walk, good everything. He's going on Sunday. So that'll be a great matchup for him for sure. Anytime you get a reasonably decent pitcher going against the Eagles, he'd be somebody I'd be interested in. But the first couple, it's not a lot here.
Yeah, not looking good. And then offensively, since we're talking about this one, and we always seem to talk about the Eagles a lot whenever we get to their series, but we got Tom and Jerry here asking about the team total for the Eagles. You didn't seem to be too optimistic when we were talking about their lineup, but could they score 5 runs tonight?
Well, so what are they averaging on the year? 3.5? Can they get 1.5 more than that against a pitcher with no track record and everything he's done this year has been bad? I'll say yes. Not with a lot of confidence, but if you're ever going to pick over 4.5 of these guys, it'd be a night like tonight. So.
Oh, I got to write this over 4.5 proudly. Eagles, let's see some run production. Over 4.5 up. That's not an 8. That's a 5 there.
Well, probably over 4.8 also.
Yes, we'll see. I don't know. They're not that good. Let's not get crazy now, Eric. Okay, that 0.3 runs. It's a big margin. But moving on, Sean also talking about this Wyverns team in general, agreeing with us, Hanwha getting the edge here, and Tom and Jerry mentioning about that team total. We're just expecting that because of expecting the over because of the Wyverns pitcher. Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah. There's no reason to be excited about anything the Eagles themselves do pretty much ever, unfortunately.
Yep, that's disappointing. And we got some people tuning in late now. But the game of the night, we talked about the Dinos already, but I think you would agree with me. The game of the night, Kiwoom Kia, looking at 2 teams in the playoff hunt, duking it out. Kia looking to get their 30th win on the year. If they can win 2 of 3, Kiwoom looking to, gain some ground on that first place NC Dinos. How do you feel?
Yeah, that's definitely a candidate for game of the night. Hero's been playing quite well lately, though they're still about 4 back of the Dinos. The Tigers are really floundering. They're definitely not taking the chance to solidify their hold on the 5th and final playoff spot. They've got a guy who they should be confident in tonight in Hyunjung Yang. He was the 2nd best pitcher in the league, at least by MVP voting last year, behind only Josh Lindblom, who's now a Milwaukee Brewer. So in theory, he should be the best pitcher in the league, but as you can see from that ERA, he hasn't been anything close to that this year. His underlying numbers are fine, not not as bad as that 5.58 ERA, but not at all what they would have wanted. And given that we're 11-ish starts in and that he is over 30, I'm not sure exactly what he is, roughly 32-ish. There you go, roughly exactly 32. Maybe, there's definitely reason to believe he's worse than he was last year. But it's getting to the point this far in that maybe he doesn't deserve that much benefit of the doubt. He just has not been good lately either. He has 2 of his last 3 starts. He's given up at least 7 earned runs. So you got to be somewhat worried, especially against the Heroes, who have a very solid lineup. For the Heroes, Won-Tae Choi going tonight he's fine. Doesn't strike out a ton of guys, but doesn't walk a ton either. He's got a decent ERA, and that makes him a good play against the Tigers, who have struggled all year. They're a bottom half lineup for sure. So I think that gives the edge to the Heroes in this one. Though again, you never know when Hyunjung Yang is going to pitch like he's supposed to. There's certainly a chance he shuts them down, but given the way he's pitched lately, I would certainly side with the Heroes.
In case you're just tuning in, this is KBO Chats Live. I'm Sam Pasco alongside Eric Halterman, giving you everything you need to know about tonight's KBO slate and for the series, finishing up this KBO week strong. It's a fan saying hello. We're talking about Kia and Kiwo. But Eric, I want to go back to something you said about, we are, 50 plus games into this season. How much do you look at who these pitchers are facing in these games? Because the Dinos, you say, okay, he's been rough in his last couple starts. He faced the best team in the league, July 4th. How much do you look at that when considering how good these guys have been? Or do you pretty much just keep looking at those underlying numbers without looking at who it's against?
It's definitely worth something. I mean, if a guy is getting blown out by the Eagles and the Giants or something like that in consecutive games, then you get a lot more worried. But a guy who's as good as Yang was supposed to be shouldn't be having this kind of trouble with anybody. So it's kind of thing you factor in, but when it's this bad for this long, I think the track record starts mattering more than who exactly you're pitching against. Because again, in a league this small, you have to pitch against pretty much everybody at some point. So
it's fair. That is fair. We got our pick now for the total. How do we feel about Kiwoom and Kia on the total, which is consensus at 9 runs?
Yeah. I would normally be for the under there. The only worry is that, again, Young has been pretty bad lately. So there's a chance if he's bad again, he's given up 7 or 8 runs in 2 of his last 3 starts. If he does that again, we're already up there. But given his track record, I think I'd feel comfortable enough siding with the under.
And whenever we mention this Tigers team, you got to talk about Preston Tucker, one of my favorite guys in the league. Is he someone to worry about still? I know he's gotten hot, a little cold, kind of streaky, but how do we feel about Preston Tucker being a potential fantasy target tonight?
Yeah, his bat's waking up again. He's not in one of his hottest of hot streaks, but he's through that very cold stretch that was 7-10 games or so. He's usable against any mediocre or worse righty. Won-Tae Choi for the Heroes is probably better than mediocre, so Tucker's not an amazing play, but Choi isn't somebody who's so good that I would avoid the Tigers entirely. So he's somebody I'd certainly be open to. And whenever you're interested in him, I'd also be interested in Hyungwoo Choi, who hits right behind him, a veteran slugger who's been steady all year long. They make a nice pairing as they're both left-handed. Whenever you're interested in one, I think there's good reason to grab both.
Look at that handed matchup right there. Let's get the final pick here. Best game on the night. Who you're going with? We're seeing some comments for both. You think the Tigers can win? You think my only bet is the Heroes? Who do you think is going to come out victorious in Game 1 of this series?
I would favor the Heroes based on Yang's recent performance, but again, I'm not super confident given that again he was so good in the not too distant past.
All right, I like it. Moving on to the next series, we have Sean talking about the Whiz versus the Lions. Coming over here, let me clear our board here. Whiz, Lions, 2 teams that, when we look at our standings, are maybe climbing. Let me clear it here. Climbing right now. Whiz at 7. Lions at 6. Right there, threatening the Kia Tigers Is this a big game in terms of that fringe playoffs team getting that final spot?
Yeah, this is huge. I might even call this the best series, given that the Tigers are playing the Heroes, as we just talked about, and the Twins are playing the Dinos. That's the 5th and 4th teams playing against the 1st and 2nd. There's a very real chance that whoever wins this series between teams 6 and 7 is in the playoffs come the end of the week. Especially if somebody sweeps, they could be all the way up to the 4 seed and looking like they have a very good chance of making it. So I think this is going to tell us a lot about both teams. Lions were very hot for a while, though they've lost 3 of 4, whereas the Whiz have stayed hot. They've won 6 of 8. So it's a very, very interesting matchup between these two teams. As for the pitchers tonight, it's an interesting question if they do indeed have decent-ish pitchers. I think Cuevas for the Whiz, it's been better than that ERA. Nothing too outstanding. Pretty mediocre peripherals, but he had a bad stretch right before a minor injury, and I think he's looked a little bit better since, except for one bad start. So on the whole, he's not somebody I'm hugely confident in, but the Lions don't have a very great lineup, so I think he makes for a fine play tonight. And for the Lions, Yoon Dong-kyo is very confusing, I guess, would be the nicest thing to say about him. He doesn't give up runs, but he also doesn't strike people out and does walk people. He's got 4 more walks than strikeouts on the year, but he hasn't given up more than 3 runs, I don't think, in any of his starts. Maybe he's got some way to consistently beat his peripherals. That's unlikely, given that he's only made 5 career starts. I think the bill's going to come due soon, but I've said that for the last 2 or 3 starts of his, so maybe he's got something that doesn't show up in the numbers. I think given the talent in the Whiz lineup, I think they're going to be the ones to finally break through. But, the Twins didn't twice and the Bears didn't once, so maybe he'll do it again. But I would side with Mel Rojas and Baek Ho Gong against Hill on this one for sure.
For sure, that duo is always dangerous, and you always got to give them, a second thought, and maybe they can pull out with the victory. But we're looking at the starting pitcher, just looking at these numbers right here. These 5 innings, very consistent in each of his 5 starts. Does that worry you maybe? Because if he's not going in the 6th, 7th, 8th inning, and you turn it over to a bullpen, especially against Rojas late, we know that they have walk-off potential, big home runs late. Do you worry about that? Maybe especially against this KT Wiz explosive offense, maybe more than you would against another team?
Yeah, that's potentially true. He's only 18 years old, so it seems like they don't want to give him a very heavy workload. I think he's 18. He's a rookie, so maybe he's 19 or so. But the Lions have had a pretty decent bullpen, but it is still a bullpen. So even though they've got Sungwon Oh, former major leaguer, back, it's still a bullpen. So you're right that if you get multiple at-bats for Rojas and Gong against pretty much any reliever, that's going to be trouble. But honestly, with Hyo's underlying numbers, I'm not sure he's a whole lot better than the bullpen. But again, maybe he pulls it off again. Yeah, like Sean said, he's been a magician. They nicknamed him Houdini on the ESPN broadcasts because he keeps getting into and then back out of jams. I'm not convinced he can keep doing that. It's only been 5 starts in his career. But, maybe. He only has to do it one more time to get a win tonight. So, hard to say.
Yeah. And he's very young. You got to keep in mind, again, how young he is. Just turned 19. What is it there? Pretty impressive. But we'll see if that whip and that ERA will increase or decrease going on. Let's get your pick now on the total. How do we feel? You have someone here thinking about the over, potentially. Maybe exploiting this bad ERA on Cuevas and the youth of Houdini. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to go over in a Whiz win. I just don't buy lines like his. Again, he's done it so far. Maybe he does again, but it's a textbook kind of line that's looking like it's going to regress. So I think I've got to side with the elite bats of the Whiz. They've really got actually a quite deep lineup. There's quite a few players I'd be interested in. Pretty much all of their top 6. They're interesting. They're like the Twins in that they do have one hitter with MLB experience, but it's not their foreign hitter. Mel Rojas never actually made the majors, but Jae-Gun Hwang had a brief foray with the Giants, San Francisco Giants, a couple years back. I never really got the playing time to establish himself. It was like 20-ish games where he did next to nothing. But the fact that he made it over there at all is indicative of his talent, and he's been very hot lately. So I might be interested in that 2 through 4 stack tonight against and frankly, against a lot of guys these days.
I like it. Maybe the Whiz being that sleeper team that will actually get that 5th spot over both the Lions and Tigers. And Bears if they fall. Oh my, I just want to say Lions, Tigers, and Bears there. But Whiz, definitely a powerful team to be reckoned with. Moving now to another series. Speaking of the Bears, they're facing off against the Giants. Chris Flexon, former New York Met on the mound. Decent ERA, but maybe not as good recently. Any thoughts on Flexon and maybe shine some light on some peripherals of his that maybe you don't like him so much?
Well, he's got generally pretty good numbers. I think he was quite good early and then had some mediocre starts and then missed the start due to a minor injury. He was good after that, but he's coming off a terrible start against the Eagles of all teams. Like we were talking about earlier, when it's the Eagles, that maybe does worry you more. It takes work to give up 6 to the Eagles. So not the most confident I've been in him heading into this game, but it is the Giants, and they're the bottom 3 offense as well. So I think he's still a good play, even though, again, that most recent start can't fill you with a ton of confidence. But I think he's still somebody I would play given how weak the Bears have been.
How is he in terms of strikeouts? We're seeing his production kind of tied to the strikeout numbers, which he's kind of been all over the board, anywhere from 1 strikeout to double digits and 10 strikeouts. What type of pitcher in terms of getting Ks is he really, now that we're actually have a good sample size on him?
Yeah, he's got a 21.3% strikeout rate, which is about 4 ticks above league average. So solidly above average. That's in the realm of most of the good but not great foreign pitchers. It's like a tick or so below Drew Wyszynski, and he's got a basically average walk rate. So I think that's enough. I mean, that's a good enough strikeout upside to be somebody I'd be interested in.
And now looking at this Giants team that he'll be facing, a lineup, we always talk about them having that defensive-minded foreign player. Dixon Machado at shortstop, former Detroit Tiger, former Miami Marlin in spring training, and maybe an older veteran player in Dae-Ho Lee that had some time with the Mariners. Any offensive hope from them? Looking at some of their past games now, is there any hope that maybe they could turn things around, maybe be an offensive, not giant, but an offensive force at least?
Yeah, their top few hitters are okay. They're guys I don't mind playing. Asap San, as one of their only lefties who hits near the top of the order, is somebody I like occasionally as a mid-priced option against righties. I'm not sure I'd be all that interested in stacking against Flexon, unless you really think his last start is indicative of who he is right now. They're also very right-handed, which means in the second game of the series against Hee-Kwan Yu, who's we've talked about it in the past, he doesn't strike anybody out, yet still tends to not give up a ton of runs, though his ERA and WHIP have finally risen to where you'd kind of expect for somebody who strikes out like 7-ish% of batters, well under half the league average. So as a lefty who gives up a ton of contact, I think I might be interested in stacking some Giants righties on Saturday, but not all that interested in them against Flexon tonight.
Not stacking tomorrow. Stacking tomorrow is not stacking tonight is the plan for the Giants lineup. In terms of the Bears, when we look at what they've been doing offensively, pretty impressive. Pull up the notes here, but Jose Miguel Fernandez at least looking like a stud last night, 2 for 5 with a 2-run home run. Are we confident the Bears, overcoming their lack of pitching with their hitting and being a really strong offensive team throughout the rest of the season?
Yeah, definitely this series. It's a very left-handed lineup, at least their best hitters in Jose Miguel Fernandez, Jael O, and Jaewon Kim. It's a trio of lefties who usually hits one after another and is among the best runs of 3 hitters in the league. And they're facing 3 right-handers this series, all of whom are quite weak. Jun-Won Seo tonight has decent enough ERA, but he doesn't strike anybody out and gives up a lot of homers. So that suggests his ERA is not going to stay low for long. I would be very happy to stack some Bears tonight and in the next 2 against Sewung Park and Kyun both of whom are mediocre at best, give up plenty of homers. So I'd be very interested in the Bears. Also, it's worth noting that the Bears play in the most pitcher-friendly park in the league, Jim Hill Baseball Stadium, and they won't be there in this series, so their bats are even better than usual. So tons of reasons to stack the top lefties all series.
We got some good bats in the Bears. I'm going to think that's going to lead to a victory tonight. Are you going to pick the Bears with the win?
Yeah, I think I'd pick the Bears pretty comfortably. Again, only worry is Flexon's last start against the Eagles was terrible, but I think I'd still side with the season-long track record and the much better offense in this one.
I like it. That's all 5 of the series here, breaking it down. Looking forward to that Samsung KT matchup, potentially a fight for that 5th place spot if the Kia Tigers, who are facing a very good KBO Heroes team, cannot come out with 2 of 3. So are the Dinos, Twins, Bears, see what they can do to hold on to their playoff spots. Got a question here about getting the contest back soon. That is our World Baseball Pick'em contest. That will be back next week. We have some confirmation on some brand new prizes we can offer, so we will be releasing that information coming very soon. And in that same theme, Eric, what are your top 3 picks for tonight? The entire slate of KBO totals and money line picks.
Yeah, so we can't go with the against the Eagles and Wyverns plan.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate. But I think I feel pretty confident in the Dinos. Twins overall have been a decent team, but they've been quite bad lately, and Dinos have Drew Rajinski. So I think that would be my number 1. The Bears over the Giants, I think, is just about as close. Again, there's a little bit of a worry about Chris Flexon given his last start, but the gap between the 2 teams and the gap between the 2 starters is quite large, despite the fact that Flexon's ERA is actually worse. So those are my top 2 pretty comfortably. And I think I'd go with the Whiz as my number 3. Again, that's pretty much based on the fact that I don't have any faith in Yoon Dong-kyo continuing his magical escapism. I've been wrong about that the last couple times. I've recommended stacks against him, and it hasn't really turned out well. But I think I'd go with Whiz as number 3.
Hey, if you're not a fan of Houdini, that's fine. You weren't a fan of David Buchanan. I don't know what you got against these Samsung pitchers, Eric, but you know what? We'll see what happens tonight. Hopefully they can prove you wrong, but I don't know. We'll see.
I've got their stats against them. That's what I have. But they've done it all year. I mean, their entire pitching staff, their ERAs are outperforming their FIPS by like a whole run. I don't know if they've got something, maybe an incredible pitching coach, catcher, something, or a lot of luck. I'd side with the luck for now, but they do keep doing it. So,
second in runs per game, just 4.75. Yeah. I mean, I'm shocked. That place is normally reserved for either the Tigers or the Dinos, and now you see the Lions in there. Maybe they're onto something. We'll see. Definitely an interesting series if they can quiet Beto Gong and Mel Rojas Jr. tonight. Will be the big test, of course.
I mean, look at the rest of the stats on there too. 8th in walk rate for their pitchers and 9th in strikeout rate, yet 2nd in runs. I mean, I can't see that lasting, but that's the kind of thing they've been doing all year. I mean, pretty mediocre underlying numbers, but they don't give up runs despite pitching in the league's most hitter-friendly home park. I don't see it lasting, but it's lasted whatever it's been so far, 50-something games. So,
yeah, we'll see if when their luck, if it does run out, because when you look at that batting average and balls in play, that's just not sustainable. You know, that's what a lot of people look for, and they're first in it. So we'll see how long that luck does last. Going back to your picks here, no over-unders. I'm surprised you're going all with the teams here, which with our pick-em is entirely fine. But we have a couple people asking about the totals.
Yeah, I generally, when I do the top picks, I'll look at team picks first just because I feel more confident in who's got the better lineup and better starting pitching. Once you get a bullpen, who knows if a bullpen's going to give up 5 or 0. What were some of the better over-unders? The Heroes, Tigers leaning under, I think we talked about being a possibility because the Tigers can't hit and Hyunjung Yang might pitch well enough to hold the Heroes down. Lions Whiz maybe over again if you don't buy Yundong Kyo at all. And you could go. I mean, the Wyverns Eagles is everybody's bad on both sides of the ball, so it's really hard to predict the over under there. Maybe you just figure the lineups don't have enough to score a ton even against the pretty bad pitching, so I might go under there.
Yeah, we'll have to see two bad teams in that series, which hopefully will make up for, all their losses and make it a pretty interesting game to watch. Final comment here from Sean with his picks. Let's give him a rating here from an A+, A-, B+. How do you feel about Dinos, Kiwoom, and Samsung as your 3 picks for tonight?
Oh yeah, fully in agreement with Dinos. As I said, I think Heroes definitely could be one that I could have mentioned. Again, that basically just involves faith that Hyun Jung Yang is more who he's been lately than he's been over the course of his career. But lately, at this point, has stretched over his entire season. So I would side with the Heroes there. I think that's a good pick. And then again, I've said I disagree on Samsung, but it seems like Sean has some faith in Hyo, which he's been right so far. So we'll see there.
Yes,
and SK and Hanwha both losing. That seems guaranteed. They'll probably both, whatever it's called, forfeit the game or something.
Yeah, there'll be like a rain out, and then they'll both get credited with the loss just because. Something like that.
That seems fair.
And Samsung, of course, Samsung question mark, little poop emoji. We'll see. Who would have thought the Lions would have been a most controversial pick on today's show? But we'll have to see. Some crazy numbers here on rotowire.com if you want to poke around and find out some more stats supporting or against the Lions. You can do that here on rotowire.com. We've got a great little KBO section. It's not little, actually. We have a lot of stats on there. But that's just about everything. In terms of injury news, Eric, anything kind of that people should take note of before we wrap up?
Top one I mentioned earlier for the Wyverns, they lost Jung Choi to a pelvic soreness. Not sure how long, but he was one of only 2 hitters that I trusted at all. So now they're down to only 1. They are supposed to get Dongmin Han back, as you see right above there. He was good early in the year, though he didn't play for very long before getting hurt. That will at least give them another player. I think he's a left-handed hitter, which means they'll have somebody to maybe turn to against weak righties. But until he gets there while Choi's out, that's really quite a weak lineup there. We've got Tyler Saladino. Looks like he might come back for the Lions soon. He's working out again, but I don't think we've seen anything since then. If he comes back, that definitely helps their chances tonight. Though I think even with him, I would still side with the Whiz. And Jake Brigham coming back some point soon. Not this series, but something to keep an eye on for the Heroes. He was their opening day starter. He was better than Eric Jokic last year and was seen as better than Jokic to start this year. So that'll be a huge, huge help for them, assuming he's fully healthy.
I like the injury notes. Of course, got to mention that Lions team always. We'll have to see what they do tonight against the Whiz. A very intriguing series there. And that just about does it for us here on KBO Chats Live. Thank you for everyone with your questions and comments, answering everything in the KBO. Hit us up on Twitter at RotoWireKBO for more. Sean, we appreciate it. And we will see you again on Monday. We're not sure of the time yet. If you missed it, check out the replay as I tell a little story as why we were delayed a little bit today. But we will see what we do. Maybe a day show. That's what a lot of the other competitors in the KBO betting pick landscape are going with. So we'll see. We'll see.
Maybe we should move it to 3 a.m. or something. Last minute news.
That might be the move. That might be the move. And get it right. Get all that opening day lineups where it's no longer just expected lineup, but actually confirmed. When you break it down, all that. We'll see. But I do not want to wake up at that time. So.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for finding us at this unusual time. I don't think we'll do that to you next time. So we'll see.
Yes, we will let you know much in advance. We'll see what's going on. All right. Peace out, everyone.
Thanks for coming, guys.